football program coming shortly, as the program announced a $200 million investment into the football program to help improve facilities as well as the south end of Jones AT&T Stadium. We'll break down exactly what this is going to do and how it will impact Texas Tech football going forward on today's episode of Locked On Texas Tech. Cha-ching.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Texas Tech. I am Emory Lyda, your host of today's podcast. As always, thank you for making Locked On Texas Tech your first listen every day. I appreciate all the support. It's good to be back on this Wednesday evening and really just taking a look at what has happened over the last few weeks. Obviously, realignment has been one of the biggest discussions all around college football and college athletics in general. I had an episode about that on Friday. If you did not check that out, you can check that out on both our YouTube channel as well as the wherever you get your podcasts. And also, I will have a link to that on Twitter. But today, we're going to be talking about Texas Tech specific stuff because over the last couple of days on Monday night, an announcement that had been hyped for a little bit, that it was a little bit of a poorly kept secret about Texas Tech going to be announcing some new news regarding their football facilities. Eventually that leaked out right before their 7 p.m. Central Time announcement that Texas Tech would be investing $200 million into the football program. And when you look at this is significant. We'd heard, obviously, Cody Campbell as well as Dustin Womble had put quite a bit of money into the program, upwards of $50 million reportedly, but $200 million is a massive step forward. That is one of the most expensive rebuilding projects and investment projects out there in the entire country. And when I first saw this number, I was shocked because obviously, we see quite a bit of money going into Texas Tech's programs. The Womble Center being built has been a game changer when it comes to facilities. We've seen Cody Campbell put in money to rename the field. Obviously, the Joey McGuire hire had quite a bit of budget behind that as well. And the assistant pool for Texas Tech on the coaching front has improved drastically in the last few years, but still the number $200 million, it's staggering. And for Texas Tech to get this much money going into the program, it's a really good thing. But first off, I think the biggest thing to look at is just taking a look at the program and how the $200 million is going to take center stage. So I'm going to show a picture for anyone that is on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, first off, why are you not on YouTube? Subscribe to the channel. Watch our videos. I'm telling you, YouTube is the best way to find out everything going on with Locked On Texas Tech, including the picture that I have in my background. But if you're not on YouTube and you just want to see what is going on, well, pretty much what I'm looking at is going to be the football stadium that has been shown on this Texas Tech investment. And you can see here on YouTube that this is a $200 million investment coming in. You can see this is from the Texas Tech athletic site, straight from the renders. And basically the most obvious thing to look at is the south end zone. That is going to be what has been improved. You can see they've kept the old double T as the scoreboard. That's something that is certainly going to continue heading into this year and going forward. And when this project is slated to be complete in 2024, it's important for the program to keep the old double T for tradition's sake, but they've obviously replaced it. You can see that it looks like they've cut a few thousand seats out of the south end zone seating, but massively different club seating. You see a lot of new suites out there, expanded opportunities in the upper level in that sense, and the whole thing looks really nice. You can see it looks like they've added in some more sort of fancier connections within the upper deck as well. You can see this project is something that from the exterior is going to look really nice as well. But just in general, taking a look at what this project is going to do, you can really see what it's going to mean aesthetically. This is one of the nicest stadiums in the country, in my opinion. with Canada. I mean, you look at what Texas Tech has done when it comes to revamping the field. Back in 2017, we've seen Jones AT&T Stadium was a really good stadium when it was first completed, and obviously you've seen since then they've done several renovations, but this is a game changer for Texas Tech. The aesthetic appeal of the stadium in the south end zone, it looks super nice, super modern. Ironically enough, back in 2014, Jake Trotter had a tweet back when he was covering the Big 12 for ESPN about a potential render for what Texas Tech Stadium will look like in the future after investment. Doesn't look too far from this, but certainly keeping the old double T is really nice. You keep a lot of club seating. It might reduce overall capacity by just a little bit, but with all of the money NIL deals coming in and potential opportunities for sponsors, I think this is a really good investment and change from a stadium standpoint. But $200 million, that covers a lot of the stadium renovation, but there's more to it. And coming up next, I'm going to take a look at what exactly this could mean for Texas Tech going forward when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to NIL opportunities, and what Kirby Hocutt himself said about this. But first, I have a message from our friends at Rock Auto. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it is now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing only the brand their warehouse happens to carry, when you can just look at Rock Auto? You have computers to access Rock Autos, you have phones to access Rock Auto, you have whatever to access Rock Auto. So it is very accessible. You can save time and money using it. You have all the parts at your fingertips just to be able to use rockauto.com. It's a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. The prices are low, and they have absolutely everything you need. And last but definitely not least, their website is super easy to use, and you can find, once again, just about everything you need, all of the solutions out there. So go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck, right? Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box? So they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices. All the parts your car will ever need. That is rockauto.com. Again, rockauto.com for amazingly low prices. Which NFL stars move the betting line the most? Starting at July 18th, Locked On gives you the 50 most valuable players in the NFL from odds makers with our friends from Bet Online. Available July 18th on Locked On NFL, wherever you get your podcast, and on YouTube. Thank you for listening to Locked On Texas Tech, talking about the NFL. One of the big sources, first off, that could be getting the money to Texas Tech is Patrick Mahomes and any other professional player. You have to think with a number as big as $200 million that some of the NFL players certainly had a little bit to do with that. We're not going to hear exactly who invested what in, but that certainly seems like an outcome that could have been a reason for why Tech was able to afford this project. But talking about this project, it is really important to take a look at what the program themselves think of all of this. And first off, Kirby Hocutt said, "This is a historic day as we announce our intentions to construct what will be the premier football facility in the Big 12 Conference and nationally. This facility, when completed, will not take a backseat to any other school in the country. We have received tremendous interest from many of our supporters regarding this project and can anticipate that continuing as we get closer to officially breaking ground," which he goes on to say will happen following the 2022 football season. And it says, "Our intent is to be the top athletics department in the country. As we look into the long-term future of college athletics, this project will set the stage for what we anticipate as decades of success on the gridiron for our Red Raiders. This will take all of us. There's not a more passionate fan base in the country than Red Raider Nation. So we encourage all our alumni and supporters to contribute to this project and, as always, be a proud member of the Red Raider Club." So fundraising continues on even as this project will start in late 2022. As it goes on to say, it's going to continue to revitalize the south end zone of Jones AT&T Stadium. It's going to include over 300,000 combined square feet, blending modern design and technology elements with the Spanish architecture that is well known to Texas Tech supporters. That is a key difference from the renderings that we've seen in the past of upgraded Texas Tech facilities. But aside from the aesthetic club area that has been developed, 7,200 square foot of that, it's going to have four floors. They have home and visiting locker rooms being revamped. You have concourse and load boxes being occupying as well. New staff new coaches and staff offices being built as well. So this is really a wholesale change in the process of being made. Lauren Chauvinet said that the great universities in the country achieve excellence because of the commitment of extraordinary people who contribute financially and through their passion and leadership. Without a doubt, this project will elevate Texas Tech and Lubbock and further affirm our football program's positive momentum. And positive momentum, mostly referencing to Joey McGuire, who has had a really fantastic start on the job. So what does Joey have to say about this project? Because he's the one that probably will be reaping the most benefits from these new facility upgrades and the influx of money coming into the program. And he said the support for Texas Tech football is real and it is passionate. And this project will position us to the top echelon of college football on a yearly basis. We're couldn't be more excited for the future of our football program and what this facility will do in terms of player development and recruiting. Now, this goes along with what we've already seen with the Womble being built and all of the facility upgrades we've seen for Texas Tech in recent years. But certainly, this is a great opportunity. And I mean, Texas Tech basketball's had the Womble being built. This is really important to see. But this is one of the biggest things that you can really find when it comes to Texas Tech, because being able to bring that much money into the program, clearly all three of Chauvinet, Hocutt, and McGuire all have the mindset that this is going to be a game changer for Texas Tech competing. So pretty much anyone that you ask about this sees it as a huge win for Texas Tech just because of the fact that you're able to really build a massive, massive project in the making. You have $200 million of funding coming in. You're going to have a really nice south end zone now. The facilities are going to be upgraded. You're going to have nicer coaching office, nicer locker rooms, nicer club suites. Like, these are all things that could be pitched not only to athletes. I mean, you're going to see the benefit of that in recruiting, I would have to imagine, but also when it comes to pitching that to NIL sponsors, because one of the things that you could do is more of a B2B type approach and sort of pitch opportunities to alumni and donors to have these really nice clubs. And that's something that's attracted to them. You can utilize it for large scale businesses. I think that it's one of the more interesting ways to look at the NIL spheres. How much can you see developments and facilities going into helping out the fan experience as well? And those fans being members of the alumni club, members of the people that are pitching in NIL deal money. So this can really help on both sides of things. And aside from the aesthetic improvement that is pretty obvious with the South End Zone project, I also think that just having those new facilities, it's more, if anything, it's more of a morale booster as well, because you look at it and you don't have any doubt that Texas Tech is really putting a bunch of money into this to ensure that Texas Tech football is as good as possible. With the impending realignment, you have the opportunity for Tech to become a Big 12 powerhouse. And if Hocutt's words are anything to go by, it seems like they have aspirations to be a national powerhouse. And obviously every team in the country is going to have those outlooks, or at least pitch to their fans maybe a little bit of an over-exaggeration in terms of what Tech could become. But certainly the amount of money going to Tech is no joke whatsoever. And $200 million is up there with the best of the best in the SEC and any program in the nation. End zone looks really nice. The architecture of it is really cool. Big fan of the Spanish architecture. It helps make Texas Tech what it is as a campus. It looks beautiful. And then end zone and stadium is no different to that. So that's nice to see. And I think that in addition to just all the money being in, the aesthetic of it, it's going to help out on recruiting visits. So in general, I think this is a really good opportunity for the program. Hocutt seems to think that this is unnecessary in terms of building a national powerhouse. Chauvinet is all the way behind it and what it can bring to the university. And Joey McGuire, I mean, he's been excelling either way, but you give him a nicer football stadium, a nicer facilities, nicer locker rooms, nicer whatever, he's going to make the most out of it on the recruiting trail. So coming up next, I'm going to talk a little bit about that recruiting, just give a little bit of a state of the union on that. I know it's been a while since I've talked about it. Texas had a couple of decommits recently, but first I've got to talk about a message from our friends at Built Bar. From the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You've probably tried the amazing coconut brownie chunk Built Bar, but guess what? Your friends at Built have given the coconut brownie chunk the Puffs treatment. And let me tell you, the Puffs treatment, it is amazing. So coconut brownie chunk Built Bar is a flavor that everyone loves. And now it has a deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate added to it. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. Not only are they good for you, though, they're also low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and all delicious. Coconut brownie chunk puffs are only here for a limited time. So go to built.com to make sure you don't miss out. They're going fast because they taste amazing. And like all Built bars, they are good for you. So go to built.com, use promo code LIVE15 and get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LIVE15 at built.com for 15% off whatever you order. And go try out the coconut brownie chunk puff, which is new from Built Bar and only available for a limited time. Back talking about Texas Tech football, and we've talked a lot about the facilities in this episode. The biggest news of the week when it comes to the football program and Texas Tech athletics in general, but figure it's a good time to come back and talk about what Texas Tech football's recruiting class is looking like. And the big thing to talk about here is they've had 2 decommits and 2 relatively painful decommits in recent memory. One of those was Calvin Simpson Hunt, who decommitted on June 30th. He has been linked to a number of different schools. Ohio State at the time was the main factor in that. So it wasn't a huge surprise. Simpson Hunt was one of the first commits for Texas Tech in November of 2021, on one of the first commits under Joey McGuire, And so it was kind of expected that maybe if there was one recruit to decommit, he would be one of the ones that was out there. And I mean, he's a corner, good size, good length, at 6 foot tall, was rangy, had good instincts on tape, but he really exploded over the last few months in his recruiting. When Tech first recruited, they were one of the first teams on the scene. And now, I mean, he's attracting a lot of attention from across the nation. Would expect that his rating would continue to bump up over the course of the next few months, but Ohio State seems to have the inside track to him. Alabama's also extended an offer. We've seen teams like Baylor go on as well. And Texas Tech, unfortunately, I mean, they're still not in a horrible place, but at the end of the day, it's not something that you're going to be expected to win out when you've got teams all the way down like Texas, Oklahoma, Oregon, Florida. All of those big name schools are out there recruiting, in USC as well under Lincoln Riley. And the fact that he decommitted and then committed to Ohio State only a couple of days later, that has to show you that it is something that I would not expect to get him back. And I mean, I'm not sold on him staying at Ohio State as a commit. I think that should be something that we could see going forward and changing, but I don't think he's coming back to Texas Tech. And it sucks, but at the same time, Tech still has a top 20 recruiting class in the nation. It's still something where they have the opportunity to be able to continue building on that class. And even though Simpson Hunt was a really good prospect, that is going to suck to miss out on him. It's still nice to have the depth in the class where one decommitment isn't going to kill you. Another decommitment, though, that happened lately was LJ Martin, who decommitted about 2 weeks ago. He's a running back, 3-star out of El Paso. And really, this one was kind of a little bit expected on the local scene, at least. He's someone that had really come on. He'd only committed about 2 months ago in April. Then right after they got a Stanford offer, and after that, when you get a Stanford offer, it was almost like you could see that happening under the cover. So for Martin to decommit, that kind of sucks. He's a running back with really good size, really good athlete as well. We've seen him in the track and field ranks as well. So to lose Martin, I mean, running back to a position where you've done pretty well, you're going to lose Roger Thompson probably after this year. But still, you've got a lot of talent on the roster with Cameron Valdez and Taj Brooks returning. So those guys are going to be there for a little while. And LJ Martin, I mean, it sucks to lose him, obviously, but you brought in some good running backs over the last couple of years. And so it's not a huge concern. He goes to Stanford. He flipped to the Cardinal. Would not expect that to change unless for something happens academically, which we hope it doesn't, because by all accounts, LJ is a good kid that had the opportunity to get an offer from Stanford in the first place. So that is what it is. But really, those two guys, they're there. They're going to be guys that you don't want to see decommitting, but at the same time, it's all right to have that happen because you still have a class that is really good. I mean, this is a class you got in front of in 2023. You're a top 20 recruiting class in the nation. You're 16th by 247. Isaiah Crawford is the headline. Brennan Jordan as well. Brennan Jordan as the rangy safety. Ryan and I talked about him all the way back. We saw Jake Strong, the quarterback that Patrick Mahomes has worked with over the last week or so. You can check that out on his Twitter. And you have a host of different defensive players that have all shown a lot of talent. And really, this class is balanced. It's got a lot of guys, 23 commits already. So there's not really a whole lot of extra room out there, but certainly this is going to be a really good class. I'm excited to see how that continues, even without Simpson Hunt or without LJ Martin. I think both of those guys obviously didn't want to lose them, but it is what it is, and Texas Tech will be in a good shape. And we'll talk a little bit more about recruiting. I'm hoping to bring on one of Locked On's resident experts, John Garcia, in the near future to talk about recruiting in a more detailed manner, because there is some continued developments on the football path that are going on. So I'll make sure to do that. But that's all for today's episode. I appreciate you guys listening to the breaking news and most latest news about Texas Tech announcing a $200 million expansion of the football facilities, in addition to a little bit of an update on recruiting. So if you want to hear more about that, just stay tuned in the near future. But for now, you can follow me on Twitter at Eraser41 and follow the Locked On Texas Tech Twitter account at LockedOnTTU. And you can subscribe to our YouTube. You can look at us wherever you get our podcasts. I appreciate each and every one of you that listens in, especially on YouTube, though. I do appreciate the continued support. We've racked up a few extra subscribers over the last week. So do continue the support. I really enjoy seeing all the feedback I've gotten. Continue to let me know what I can improve on, what you would like to see covered. Coming forward tomorrow, I'm going to have some football coverage talking about the wide receiver position. And then stay tuned for Friday, because we have a crossover episode with Locked On Longhorns, Jonathan Davis, one of our biggest rivals, a team that honestly embarrassed us last year. So that's going to be an interesting crossover. You won't want to miss it. It's a good preview. I'm really looking forward to getting into that, but do appreciate all the support. And for now, I cannot wait to talk to you guys tomorrow. But in the meantime, you can get more on the Big 12 by making Locked On Big 12 your second listen. You can hear the roundtable that was posted today. Fortunately, we're not going to have those on the feed going forward, but that is okay, because everyday host Josh Neighbors and the local experts of Locked On, including yours truly, take you across the Big 12 in 30 minutes. Locked On Big 12 can be your second listen, and it is a good second listen. So make Locked On Big 12 your second listen today. And I'll be on there at some point. You can check out the roundtables. They had a good discussion last time about expansion, stuff along those lines. So keep an eye out for that. But in the meantime, this has been Locked On Texas Tech, and I will see